if I am meant to do this work, then I need you to help me figure the money out. Because what I'm doing right here is not sustainable.
Welcome to Big Energy. I'm your host, Kassi Underwood, here to give you a dose of that good energy and talk with people who do it best. Each week, I bring you the knowledge we need to be the forces of nature we came here to be. Rha Goddess is someone who, when you meet her, she just exudes love. You feel abundant in her presence. And that is such a sign of the level of mastery that she brings to the work that she teaches. Rha is the author of a book called The Calling, which teaches a 3-part methodology offering a blueprint for finding your purpose and making your most profitable contribution. On today's show, we're going to talk mainly about the profitable part. So we're going to talk about money. I've been very open about my relationship with money and the transformation that I've created relatively recently. One of the people who made the biggest difference for me was Rha Goddess. We met when I invited her to speak on a panel at Harvard Divinity School called The Business of Spirituality on Money, Branding, and Other Taboos. And when I say that this woman can hold a room, honestly, professors were coming up to me afterward being like, who was that? People just felt her. So let me just first tell you a little bit about the work that she's done. She's definitely worked with people that you've heard of. She is the entrepreneurial soul coach behind hundreds of changemakers, cultural visionaries, and social entrepreneurs, including New York Times bestsellers and multi-million-dollar social enterprises. She is the CEO of Move the Crowd, which is galvanizing a movement of 3 million entrepreneurs dedicated to reimagining quote-unquote work as a vehicle for creative expression, financial freedom, and societal transformation. In particular, to me, Rha's 30-year career has been so impressive around her work in issues of racial justice and equality, electoral politics, offender aid and restoration, mental health, and youth and women's empowerment. In 2017, Rha was chosen as one of the 50 founders to watch by Essence magazine, and I just cannot recommend her book, The Calling, highly enough. Today, we're going to talk about what the call to abundance really is, and Rha breaks down what is happening in us when we're on the path from scarcity to abundance. So once you step on the path from scarcity to abundance, a lot of shit goes down. For me, especially when I was making that first leap, I was terrified. I mean, palms sweating, like having to listen to guided meditations to get to sleep. I was so out of my comfort zone. And Rha, during this interview, explains what's happening in us when we're on that path. She also guides us through a meditation, guides me through a meditation. And I hope that as you're listening, that you will stop and just allow yourself to be guided through the meditation as well. I was super surprised by what happened during that meditation. And I think that you will be too. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Rha Goddess.
Hello, Rha. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My joy, my joy.
I'm so glad you're here. So let's just dive right in. You are such an inspiration to me. The way that you talk about making that bridge between being an artist, being an activist, being a healer or woman of God, and to actually making money, doing what you're meant to do. That's not an easy bridge for people to walk.
No.
You know?
No. I like to affectionately say that I am a change of life baby born into the intersections of civil rights and hip hop. And so art and spirit were very much right there at the very, very beginning for me in terms of the way my perspective on life and on the world and on work was shaped for many years because I came from parents who really instilled the values of education and community and family. This idea of being of service or living a purposeful life was something that I always knew in the context of their example. But this idea of being able to be financially profitable or this idea of being able to be financially sustainable or viable in that service was not something that I saw modeled. And so it was really at a point later in life that kind of came all to a head for me. I'd come back from an international trip and rent was due. And I didn't have it, and I was too exhausted to kind of go out and hustle and get it, which was my typical modus operandi. And that was where the rubber met the road for me. And I realized that the sort of revolution for me in being able to bridge those realities had everything to do with being able to transform the way that I had been conditioned to believe that I had to trade, and conditioned to believe that there was something wrong with being willing to be sustained and well-resourced while doing God's work, right? So for me, it was getting a whole other kind of education and being willing to open my mind and my spirit to the belief that if I was able to be well-resourced in my work, that I could serve more people and have a greater impact. That was the thing that sort of opened the door for me in terms of moving into a whole new way of being and operating in the work.
Was it hard believing that actually earning more would help you do more good for more people?
A lot of what was in the conditioning for me growing up was that money was a corrupter. So much of what we had seen in large scale leadership, in the sense of the dollar becoming more deified than human life, when you have those really negative examples of culture of greed and exploitation, that side of capitalism, when you see that at its worst, it's really hard to believe that you can operate and engage and work inside of those systems and do it with any form of integrity. So it took real work on my part. And I will say to you that the biggest thing that supported me in being able to transform it was my vision, was being able to not just operate in reaction to those systems or operate in reaction to that lack of values, but rather to come deeper into my own values and to be more creative in terms of what is it that I want to envision, and do I want a world where I have to trade? Well, no, I don't want a world where I have to trade. I want a world where I can be well taken care of and healthy and making the difference and the impact that I want to make. So yes, it was work. It was new beliefs and then practice and then action aligned with those new beliefs. But all of it really began to turn with the vision, being willing to, rather than being the mode of being a victim of or operating at the mercy of, to coming from a place of, well, vision. I have my own ideas. I have my own aspirations, my own thoughts about how this can look, and I'm willing to work towards that.
When you were in the moment of, oh shit, rent is due, and I got to think about my vision, and I have to be inspired to make money by something deeper, what brought that inspiration to you?
Prayer. Really simple. It was on my knees, and it was me and Jesus, coming to Jesus, right? And really going, again, literally, I really said, if I am meant to do this work, then I need you to help me figure the money out. Because what I'm doing right here is not sustainable. Part of what I had to confront in that moment was my lack of vision, was all of the places where I had bought into this belief that I couldn't, or bought into this belief that to be well-resourced automatically meant that I would be corrupted, or I'd bought into this belief that I'm supposed to starve, that somehow that's noble, that somehow that makes me a better person. You know what I mean? All of the things that we can be taught. If we take it to the doctrine, I truly believe that the desire and the want for spirit of us is abundance, always has been. Whether we see those aspects highlighted in what we're taught or not, the desire is because they are all providing. The source is plentiful. So if that's the case, then what part of me is not tapping into that part of my divinity that I would feel that? And I would experience that, right? Or if I'm an artist, what part of me is not tapping into my creativity that I would feel that or experience that, right? Or if I'm an activist, what part of me is not tapping into my right to participate in economies that are healthy and vibrant and forward moving for all people, right? Like, what part of me is not tapping into that? And it was like when I could come to each of those places, me the creative, me the child of God and spirit, me the activist, the frontline game changer, creative change agent, then it was like, oh, and on all of these levels, it is important for me to take my power back, my divine power back, to create and to be prosperous in whatever it is that I'm creating.
Yes. Okay. So I want to highlight that you started with a prayer. And that is what tapped you back into your vision and asking for help, for guidance. You're going to help me out with this if this is meant to be sustainable. I so relate to that. It just doesn't work. If we're not tapping into the metaphysical to earn money, it's like we're leaving out a really big resource here that can be supporting us. Can you tell us about some of your practices on a daily basis? Do you have practices still for abundance?
I absolutely do. So first of all, I'm a huge fan of John Randolph Price, The Abundance Book. Look, mine is tattered. Listen, this book was a game changer for me. And in this book, y'all, there's a 40-day prosperity plan. And it is 10 meditations that you do over 4 cycles. If you skip a day, you go back to day 1, because obviously the whole intention is to start to imbue the mind with a new conversation. And this was a vital tool for me. This is what the power of being centered and creating, whether that's that prayer space or that meditative space, or even just that quiet space, you start to listen and you start to hear things differently. And then you do start to be guided. And then all of a sudden resources and things start to drop in your lap, or people start to step into your path. If you're paying attention, the opportunity is to listen and then move and act in accordance with the guidance. And so we need to do both. And so literally Spirit said to me, get a business education, right? And then I was like, okay, but I don't want to go back to school. And that you will be shown. And all of a sudden teachers, mentors, I started to get emails in my inbox that I had no idea where they came from. I got invited to a money seminar and began to sort of do work with my own relationship with money. This book wound up dropping in my lap through a really, really dear friend and collaborator at the time. And so all these resources began coming in. And because I was consciously asking to be shown, I was able to see the signs. I was able to see all of the different ways in which my prayer was being answered and responded to, right? Mm-hmm. My practice, and I continue to work with this book, because every time I want to go to a new level of prosperity or a new level of wealth, I come back to this book because it just had been so transformative for me. And the first time I did this book, I think I was making maybe $30,000. And within 8 months, I was making $90,000.
That's amazing.
And then the next year, it went to $194,000. Every cycle of this book, when I was ready to do $500,000, it was like, come back here. When I was ready to do $750,000, come back here. Your practices, whatever they are, your prayer practice, your meditation and mantra practice, your time in nature, your journaling, whatever those things are that feed your soul and feed your spirit and connect you to your source, they need to be your mainstays. They need to be your mainstays, because those are the things that align your energy. And everything that I'm going to talk to you about today, specifically as it pertains to money and success, is going to be about the function of alignment. Because when we are aligned, it flows. When we are not, it does not. Our work always is to get back in alignment with the truth of who we are, back in alignment with the truth of what it is that we're here to do. And as a result of being in alignment, the blessings come.
I love so much of what you just said. First of all, I love hearing people's numbers when they climb. I love hearing how the numbers jumped. It's one of my favorite things. It's so incredible. You tripled, you doubled, you just kept going. It doesn't have to be this incremental 3% raise. It's really powerful. We were talking about this today. I did a live. We were talking about how to clear the money blocks, and it's a lifetime effort. It's not like one and done. You keep going back. You keep finding the fears. You keep finding the old beliefs. So going back to the book, I cannot wait to get this book. I'm going to do that meditation. Mm-hmm. Let's see what happens.
Yes. It is transformative. I will tell you, I have gifted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these.
Really?
I just keep a stash, because I'm often guided for who to give it to and in what context and in what timing. And so I have certain books that are stocked in my cabinet that I always have copies of. And this is one of them.
That's so incredible. I love reading all the money books and like all the old money, the kind of original.
Science of Getting Rich, all the grandfathers.
Yes.
Yes, Wallace
Yeah,
Waddles,
Wallace
absolutely.
Waddles,
Yes.
So I want to know as we move into talking about the calling, I want to hear just so people can kind of like hook in and see themselves in this. What tends to hold creatives and activists, game changers, entrepreneurs away from embracing their calling to the greatest extent, especially with the financial piece?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, and this is part of the reason why I wrote the book in the way that I did.
Yeah.
My experience, there are three concerns. All the thousands and thousands of souls I've had the privilege to work with and listen to over the years, there were three prominent concerns that come up anytime we talk about whether or not people feel empowered to pursue their purpose and their calling. Or even find it, right? So let's even start there, because some people are still like, I don't know what mine is. The first is the question, who am I? And it has everything to do with the degree to which we perceive ourselves to be worthy or capable of or deserving of whatever it is that may be calling us. Whether that's a new quality of life, whether that's a different line or path in terms of our life's work, whether that's a quality of relationship, like whatever those blessings are, this questioning of who am I to deserve this? Who am I to want this? Who am I to have this, right? The second question, of course, this is the money question, is how am I going to eat?
Right.
And that's the number one concern. Like no matter what, no matter what I feel passionate about, no matter what I want to do, no matter who I want to serve, at the end of the day, I need to know that I'm going to be able to eat and I'm going to be able to have a roof over my head. It has everything to do with our relationship to resource and the degree to which we feel resourced or the degree to which we feel scarce. This sort of lack of resource, lack of options, lack of choices, lack of opportunity, right? To be able to express. And within this conversation of money, it's interesting because there's a sort of a compounded effect, because I can make money, but in order to make money, I have to trade some things. I have to trade being my authentic self. I may have to trade working with people that I like. I may have to trade working for people I respect. I may have to trade, my quality of experience in terms of my morning commute. We've been conditioned and taught that we have to trade for it. And so whether it's a conscious level or a subconscious level, money equals sacrifice for a lot of us. For a lot of us, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, morally, physically. When it comes to the things that are important to us, it's not just sacrifice, it actually equals painful sacrifice. Painful sacrifice. When this how am I going to get money concern comes up, it's game over for a lot of us.
Yes.
The third concern is, can I really make a difference? Can I really do something that matters in the world?
That just
can
totally,
You feel that, right? Can I really matter? Is what we're really asking. Can I contribute something of value? That's a really tenacious challenge for people, just like money, tenacious because we look at the state of our world. And because depending upon what media outlets or what resources you're going to for your source of information, it's a hot mess out there. On any given day, it just looks like the world is going to hell in a handbasket with a bow on top. And a lot of us are kind of like, I don't even know how to stop that. I don't even know how I could begin to affect that. I don't even know if I could make a difference. So the apathy, the fear, the resignation, the ignorance even about how these issues are being addressed, all of that kind of sets in, and that keeps us from our ability to do the work. In the book, I walk you through, in each dimension, I walk you through a transformative process. In the journey of your stay true and your authenticity and your self-love, I walk you from the place of victim to the place of vision, where it really becomes about, what is my vision for my life? What is my vision for my person? How do I want to be expressed in the world, in every facet of my life, in my relationships, and where I live, and what I consume, and what I focus my attention on, what's really important to me. Like, we get to the heart of it. And where have I been? And what are all of the ways that I am incredible and don't realize it and don't know it? What are all of the ways that I have strength and resilience and power and insight and knowledge and wisdom that I'm not even accessing because I'm too busy consumed by or being guided by or driven by all these external factors over which I have no control? We put the power back in your hands. We put you back in the driver's seat of your own reality and your own life and your own spirit. And the second part, the transformative process and the journey around money, is to go from scarcity to abundance. That is really about taking back the right to create your own economy. That's everything from where you spend to how you earn, to who you work with, to what you offer, and the way that what you offer feels like a genuine extension of the truth of who you are and feels like it's completely aligned with the gifts that you've been given. The work there is being able to create the proposition that you feel is totally an extension and expression of you, and being able to marry that and meet that with people in the marketplace who are absolutely looking for that change, that transformation, that result that you are willing to deliver. It's about the sacred exchange and being able to create room and space for the sacred exchange, and knowing that the sacred exchange is necessary for the growth and evolution of us and our society and our world. The law of reciprocity, the giving and the receiving, is necessary for our growth and evolution as humanity. So it's kind of like to say, okay, I'm not going to participate in that, is saying, I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to share what I've been given. I'm not going to make my contribution, right? Which takes me to the third shift. As we're talking about the three fundamental shifts, the third shift in the center of contribution is to move from fear to love. Contribution is a human need. Every single one of us needs to contribute, whether it is about raising our children, whether it is about holding our communities, or whether it is about leading these mega conglomerate corporations. Every single one of us must make a contribution and feel a sense of achievement and meaning in that contribution. If we're willing to lean into that commitment, then the opportunity to make a proposition to the market, to the world, that moves the needle on something that really matters and is important for us, is the way in which the true paid good reality begins to come together. And that's the invitation of the book.
If you're a bad bitch who's ready to create a massive shift into abundance and ease around money, I've got good news for you. I officially reopened the doors to my popular program, Money Metaphysics for Maverick Women. It's a 6-month group program where you receive direct guidance from me, live calls, instant access to my 13-module course, Big Money Energy, plus a 2-day in-person retreat in August, and tons of other live support and content. Within the first 2 months, Maverick women who are already enrolled are making more money than they've ever made in their lives, being unapologetically self-expressed, and dreaming bigger than ever before. You can watch videos about their experience and learn more about the program at kassiunderwood.com/MMMW. Join by Monday, May 17th, and you'll also receive a very sexy online energy spa day full of nervous system work, energy healing by my personal healer, and meditation guidance from me, plus more bonuses. So check it all out now and register at kassiunderwood.com/MMMW.
Wow. As you were speaking, especially about the offering and making it an extension of who you are, oh my God, that makes a huge difference. And even your willingness to receive from that,
Yes.
you know? And I know that Gabby Bernstein has worked with you in the past, right? Mm-hmm. And still does. I see that in her work. Yes. Yeah. She's so incredible. I noticed recently, it was in meditation. It came to me that there is just no friction with what she's offering. There's no friction. That was like this download I got that it's just so pure and from her heart to the world. And I think that's a result of this process. It's really powerful to hear you talk about that and to recently have seen how that comes through. Yeah, it's just so powerful.
This call to abundance is really about growth. And I want to underscore that because, you know, we can make a conscious choice. And there's a part in the book where I talk about your money truth and what is true for you when it comes to money. There are some of us who we want it lavish. And that's just what our spirit desires. Our spirit wants comfy, cushy sheets and soft, wonderful down pillows and whatever the luxury is. You guys know what I'm saying, right? The beautiful, fragrant bubble baths and the jacuzzi. For some of us, like, that's what our soul yearns for. There's something about our nature and our energy that calls us to lavishness. And it has to do with the manifestation and the full realization and actualization of the center of your spirit. And that's the way that spirit wants to experience itself, as lavishness through you. For others of us, it's really about simplicity. Like, we don't need the fancy sheets. We don't need the 17 cars. Like, we're really happy with a nice, reliable vehicle that is energy and fuel efficient. You know what I'm saying? And we live in a very nice but modest house. And you know what I mean? And we want to be able to take 4 vacations a year with the kids. You know, it's very simple. It's not a whole lot of things. Our closet was just sort of the standard 5 or 6 outfits that we can rotate well enough to at least look like we washed. And so all of us has a truth around that. And our opportunity when we start to deal with money is to get present to and profoundly connected to what is true for us. And not from a place of judgment or scorn or comparison, but from a place of what is genuinely true. What is our spirit calling us to? Because whatever our spirit is calling us to is uniquely matched to the growth and the evolution that is necessary for our soul. So you feel me? So I can't stand in your shoes and have your experience and expect to be you, because that's not how this is designed. Your soul, which is an extension of source, wants to experience a particular reality through you. And when you don't honor what is true for you, you rob yourself of the growth and evolution that is required for self-realization.
I love that so much.
Right? Now, here's the powerful thing about this. All of it is about remembering. Because you are a part of the abundant all there is. You just are. So it's all at the ready. Do you know what I'm saying? Whatever your school of thought is around this, we are all part and extension of the all there is. And so the all there is saying, as Kassi, I want to have this journey. And what is true for this soul in Kassi's body is billionaire. And so the journey, you feel what I'm saying? The journey then becomes the growth and evolution that takes you on the trajectory of billionaire. And that the goal isn't about the money.
Right.
It's about the actualization of your full self-expression. It is about the full wholeness of the expression of your soul and your ability to be able to access that through the journey called billionaire.
I fully and completely get that.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Here is my question. On the journey, it gets really fucking scary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I've been on this money journey. I have seen a massive change in my life. Like, it is so, so, so different. Like, I'm in a nice hotel right now. And in the past, there was no way. I would literally be like, literally a couple of years ago, sleeping on the side of the road with, whatever I could do. And, It's been amazing. But what happens, and I want people to know this because I feel like this is the journey people are going to get on in your book, is that you're starting to ride on the...
Yeah, you get on the escalator or the conveyor belt. Yes.
Yeah. And then it's almost like you feel like you've been given a bigger car. Like I used to be driving like a little tiny car. And then now it's like, okay, wait, I don't think I can drive a Mack truck yet, you know? Yes. And it's like, why don't you drive a jet? You know, it's just, and it gets really scary. So what do you do with fear as your soul is expanding into what it's called to expand to?
You are developing the muscle of courage.
Okay.
Courage is a practice. And having the courage to grow is a practice and a muscle and a skill set that you have to cultivate. And you only cultivate that by being willing to be uncomfortable. Now, I will tell you also what's important is there are growing edges. You work where you're ripe and ready to grow. So you're not trying to force millionaire. You're not trying to force, because I want to say that because we have a lot of conditioning in our culture that is around forcing millionaire, the conversation of millionaire or now billionaire. Because, you know, and I joke about this in the book, like somebody once told me $1 million is chump change. I'm like, to who? The half of the world's just barely above $2 now.
Exactly.
And that's a recent statistic because it's been under $2 for the last 40, 50 years. Half of the world's population. So there's a certain kind of arrogance that I do want to sort of say that sometimes gets thrown around in terms of what it is you're supposed to want and what it is you're supposed to need and what it is you're supposed to have, right? I'm coming back to this money truth conversation, right? And so in the truth of our souls is one, to understand and recognize what is the number for us. And then two, to be on the path in a way that allows us to work where we are ripe and ready to grow. Knowing that where we are today is not where we're going to be 3 months from now, not where we're going to be 6 months from now, not where we're going to be 8 months from now. And so our willingness to actually work where we are ready and excited and it's just the right amount of stretch and just the right amount of growth versus where we are trying to force a reality and trying to push a reality which puts us into the terror zone. And the conversation of growing edge is you don't want to be behind the edge because you're bored and you're playing small. You're behind the edge. But you don't want to be over the edge either, where you're terrified, you're stretched, and you're vibrating in terror, which completely repels any form of progress. You hear what I'm saying? So some of us, look, some of us are going to baby step it. Some of us are going to be in a natural stride. Some of us are going to have a brisk walk. Some of us are going to full out sprint and run. And some of us are going to have moments where all of those things are applicable. But this idea of natural growth, organic growth, and being willing to be open to the way that growth and evolution shows up and unfolds is what really the journey is about. You know, we move quicker through surrender.
I love that.
We move slower through resistance.
And pushing is resistance.
Pushing is resistance.
Yes, I love that. So question, when somebody is trying to find out what their deepest desire is, what's true for them, how do they tell the difference between the conditioning of what we should want and their true desire?
And again, I think this is a practice which is called, how do you really listen to the truth of your own heart? And that takes spending time with you and really sitting in, you know, sort of creating a space where you don't have everybody else in your head or in your ears, and you're not looking outside of yourself to define what you should want, but you're asking yourself, what is my vision for my life? What is my vision for my relationships? What is my vision for my work? And you're listening and you're allowing that deep, intimate conversation with you and you to start to become the louder voice in your head. And I say it's really important because sometimes if I ask the question, who's in your head? When I'm talking to clients and they're giving me limiting belief after limiting belief and they're saying all these quips and phrases and y'all know what our inner dialogue can look like sometime. And I'm like, who do you think you sound like right now? And then they're like, oh my God, I sound like my mother, or oh my God, I sound like my father, or oh my God, I sound like, right? And so, you know, just as we are creative, Kassi, we're influential as well. And so we have to really be mindful of whose word we're heeding as we start to think about what's important to us, what is important to us. And so when you're asking, what do I want? You also want to be asking yourself, why is that important to me?
Yeah.
Why is that important to me? Right? Why is it that I feel like this is what's true for me? And when we touch upon that which is true, it's interesting because it's not usually a logical conversation. It's a visceral conversation. It's a vibrational conversation. It's a feeling conversation. So I advise when I work with my clients around this that you feel into what the number is. Like if you were to close your eyes right now, let's go here. Close your eyes.
You don't want me to do it?
Yes. Okay. We're here. Why not?
Okay.
And if I asked you to just feel energetically into what the number is for you, and we're going to keep this really simple, like a month. What do you now want to attract for yourself a month? What feels energetically aligned given where you are?
I'm playing with some numbers here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, what I want you to notice about the number is, can you energetically hold that number?
Like,
or do you feel any form of resistance to that number? Yeah. You know what the number is. Do you feel yourself naturally leaning in and embracing this number, or do you feel a little bit of resistance or hesitation around the number?
I feel naturally like leaning in toward it, but I also, my heart gets scared.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Scared.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because that means that there's enough of a stretch in there that is taking you beyond your comfort zone. You know, if you said, wow, when I think about the number, I'm totally terrified, I would say to you, okay, we want to just back it up a little bit. And what's important to know about this is that because people sometimes are afraid to come smaller because they're like, oh my God, they think they're going to be stuck there. It's like, no, this is about you learning how to align with where you're ripe and ready to grow. Learn how to align with where you're ready for. And what's true for you may grow as you evolve and grow. But again, you're coming back to those fundamental questions of your values, which is what's really important to me. And why do I want or need the amount of money that I'm wanting or needing? Is it about security? Because maybe I never had it growing up. Is it about, you hear what I mean? Is it about wanting to impress people? Because I never felt like I had that ability to be seen and respected. And so you get to ask all of the questions and you get to see, okay, what's coming from ego? What's coming from trauma? What's coming from spirit? And you get to start to work with that.
Okay. I have so many questions. So I just went to that place, felt into that number. Very interesting, the number I'm at now, which is really amazing. But it was almost like when I felt into it vibrationally, it was almost repulsion from it because it felt so out of alignment.
Yeah.
And that was surprising. Hopefully everybody listening will do this exercise. And the number, if it seems larger than what they would expect to be able to pull off, what do they do with that? You know,
that's a great question. So let's say what you come to is the larger vision, because there are levels of vision. Right. So let's say the number, I'm just going to throw it out. Let's say the number is $1 million and where you're really wanting to aim for is $1 million a month. Let's just say that that's what the number is. And people are like, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
But maybe what you can hold today is $5,000 a month. You still honor what the true vision is, but you work where you're ripe and ready. So where you're ripe and ready is $5,000 a month. So you go, okay. So now I can create my plan. I can create my strategy to support my ability to achieve $5,000 a month. And then you get into what is it that needs to happen with my proposition, this offering I want to make to the marketplace that will enable me to attract and magnetize the $5,000. And then that becomes the conversation.
So then you shape your offering from
We
that.
Yes, we sit down and you're like, woohoo, did that.
Yes.
I'm ready to grow it. So now we're in a conversation and it's $10,000. Do you see what I mean? And you look at everything that you learned that brought you to 5 and you start to kind of go, where do I need to evolve the conversation or grow the conversation that moves me to 10? It may be there's another evolution of client that you're engaging. It may be there's another evolution of product or offering that you're engaging. But it all is drawn from your values and it's all in alignment with what you feel is true for you. What is true for you ultimately, and then there's what is true for you now. And you play and work inside of both. And I think this conversation about how we chunk it down feels really important because, like I said, there's all this pressure to be a millionaire. And the truth is a lot of people could live very, very comfortably and really achieve and have all they want for far less than $1 million, y'all.
Right.
And so part of it is as you come into what that number is that's true for you long term, and then that number is that's true for you today, you're building a kind of integrity and alignment that enables you to magnetize at a very different level.
Yeah.
Right? But you're always thinking about what you're offering and what you're sharing, and you're always thinking about the difference you want to make. And that it's a combination of those two things that actually begin to magnetize the opportunities to earn.
Wow. That is so incredible. I'm like feeling it so hard right now. That's so good. Okay, let's talk about something that I think is a really important piece of the journey as people are getting into this vibrational integrity. Let's talk about the role of forgiveness.
Yeah, it's everything. It's step 3 in the transformative process that you will go through in every section of the book. Forgiveness is step 3. Before we can really fully receive, we have to let go. We have to let go of some things that will allow us to travel a little lighter, that will allow us to move a little faster, that will enable us to see a little bit more than what we've been able to see. Forgiveness, we hear this all the time. It's like, oh, it's more for you than it is for them. But the word really means, and I break down the etymology in the book, like I take us there, right? But it really means to give up without reservation. To give up without reservation, which means we give up the right to hold on to things that keep us bound, because anything that we're holding on to is holding on to us. There are some things that you want to hold on to, and there are things that you want to hold on to you. And then there's some things that you don't want to hold on to you because they hold you back. Some things hold you up and some things hold you back. And you want to be really clear about what are the things that are holding me up, as in elevating, as in uplifting me, and what are the things that are holding me back, as in blocking my progress. In the conversation of forgiveness, I take you all through a ritual that enables you to really heal those incidences, those situations, those circumstances. And there's a whole section on doing it with money and doing it around money. A lot of what we carry is shame and guilt when it comes to money, about past decisions we've made, about incidences or situations that have gone down in our families or our communities or in particular kinds of business transactions or collaborations or partnerships. And those things prevent us often from being able to meet new opportunities with a full heart. And so our capacity to even realize an opportunity is limited when we aren't able to forgive, release, and let go of whatever may have been in the way around that history, whatever that is. So it's like I had my hand slapped, so I don't put myself out there. And what we realize and what we need to realize, and this is why forgiveness is so important, whatever we think we're keeping in, we're also keeping out. The protective barrier works both ways. Not only, you know what I mean? And so, not only does it keep out the bad, but it can also keep out the good. Our ability to be full-hearted in the world and courageous in the world has to do with our willingness to really see, embrace, and own our power, our strength, and our resilience, which really says that I'm willing to be out and I'm willing to engage and I'm willing to lean in and I'm willing to play, but I'm also willing to trust myself and my sight and what I hear and what I see. And I'm willing to always come back to my truth about what I think is for me and not for me. And to know that if I'm willing to come back to my truth as a practice in any situation, that I will move through it with the lesson and the wisdom, but it won't take me out. So grace will intervene. And I will be guided and led and held and cared for. But I have to stay awake and aware of that integrity piece, because that integrity piece is crucial, even in the context of forgiveness, because for some of us, we're holding on to things that are taking us out of our integrity. So we can't say love and compassion over here and then talk trash about our neighbor 5 minutes later. We can't say, oh, the world is cruel, and then be throwing shade on social media. We can't, you feel what I mean? It's kind of like, it is whatever you're creating. The world is whatever you're creating right now. Whatever you're contributing to, you're absolutely right. That's what the world is. And so if we want more love, we want more compassion, we got to bring that. We got to offer that. We got to be willing to forgive and let go and demonstrate that, because that grace and that forgiveness will then also be available for us. We know how it works. There will be our moments where we'll need forgiveness, and we want it in the bank when we go for it. We want it available to us. So that also means we've got to be willing to make deposits.
Wow, I love that. I love that so much. And I think that it's so important to hear that, because as you move through the journey of entrepreneurship, real stuff happens. You know, it gets real. And that was something that I wasn't even prepared for. I feel like the levels that you've spoken to throughout the interview have been not just the people at the start of the journey, but throughout it. I've been listening with the ears of me from a couple of years ago, from last year, from last month, from yesterday, from right now, from a few years down the road even. So yeah, all different dimensions today. Yeah.
It's a spiral. It's just, you know, every level we go up, every threshold is going to present its set of challenges and its set of opportunities. And our growth and evolution is about being able to sort through those things and come back into alignment and emerge intact. Last thing I'll say about the forgiveness piece, because I think this is also so important, is the person often we most need to forgive is us. When I said to you, we carry shame, we carry guilt, we carry regret, we also carry a lot of judgment. We have to accept that we've done the very best that we could. Whatever those choices were that we made, whatever those things that we are naming mistakes or hard lessons, that we've done the very best that we could with whatever we had and whatever that moment was. And our willingness to let go also says that we're willing to grow. We're willing to evolve. We're willing to remember and come back to the truth of who we are, which is our magnificence. Even in the mistakes that we've made, we're still magnificent, we're still glorious, we're still amazing. And so the forgiving of ourselves is also about releasing and providing room and space to allow ourselves to receive goodness. We've punished ourselves enough. I really do mean that. Like if you're punishing yourself around something, like, we're done now. You can let that go now. And you can create space and room to receive more. You can allow yourself to deserve more. You can allow yourself to embrace being worth more in any interaction and engagement that you're having. That is the biggest barrier, in my experience, to financial wealth and prosperity. Lack of self-forgiveness. Yeah.
Wow. That is incredible. That I didn't expect for you to say that.
I know, we think it's the tips and the tools. And the tips and the tools have their place. Please don't get me wrong. But if you haven't dealt with the foundation of who you are, the tips and tools are only going to take you so far.
Yeah.
That's sacred and holy work. because of the places, all of the places we go within this conversation is about liberation. It is about setting yourself free. Mm-hmm. Liberation without reservation, without the right to hold back, without the right to bring it back up, without the right to throw it back in your own face. You know, sometimes I feel like nobody's worse to us than we are. Mm. And particularly when it comes around money and the judgments around money, whether we have it, Kassi, or we don't. Because I will tell you, I've sat with people with incredible wealth, and it's interesting that the conversations don't look that much different. Yeah. Which may surprise people. You know, it's still at the beginning, middle, and the end of the day about our humanity and what we carry, what we choose to carry.
So incredible. Rha, thank you so much for all the gems that you've dropped today. I mean, I can't wait to listen to this over and over and over again. You are amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And everybody who's listening, please pick up The Calling. It's available right now.
movethecrowd.me/The Calling. And then you come in and you go order your book, get a front row seat.
Oh my gosh. Yes, everybody. Yes, absolutely.
Come on in. Come on down.
I'm coming. Thank you so much, Rha. You are so amazing.
My joy.
And everybody, I will see you soon. Bye.
That was another episode of Big Energy with me, your host, Kassi Underwood. Were you into it? Go ahead and click the subscribe button and leave a review. You can also find me online at KassiUnderwood.com. See you next time. And remember, Money Metaphysics for Maverick Women, my 6-month program, is open for enrollment. If you join by May 17th, you will also receive all kinds of bonuses. Learn more and register at KassiUnderwood.com/MMMW.